Hi everyone, Vinay here. Welcome to our channel DDN. In this video, I wanna show you the fundamentals of programming using Python. I'm going to assume that you have no programming background at all. We are going to start from the very basics and we are going to work our way up step by step, and we will get a little bit more advanced by the end of this video. You will be able to write your very own source code and then run it. How exciting is that? Well, why should you even learn how to program? And then why Python? There are so many different programming languages out there. Why should we choose Python? Then we are going to start with how do you even get Python? Where do you write your code? Then we will go through things like operators, variables. We will create a function. We will even jump into things like creating an if statement, creating loops. So your code will run or execute until a certain condition is met. We will even leverage others' code by importing libraries into Python. By the end of this video, you will have a very solid understanding of how to get started with programming. Think of this as a 100 level course that will give you all of the most essential tools. Let's start with why program. To get started, you might be wondering, well, why should I even learn how to program? How is this going to benefit me? Well, anytime you go on your phone or anytime you go on your PC, you are experiencing the output of something that someone has programmed. So you are realizing the benefit. Think of it with this way. To program allows you to take maybe an idea that is in your head. You can turn it into a series of steps that the computer can understand and execute. How cool is that? So, for example, maybe you have a game that you want to create. Maybe you want to create an application at work to help simplify what you do on a daily basis. By programming, you can do all of those things. It's an incredibly powerful skill to learn how to use. So, why Python? Okay, so you want to learn how to program, but why Python? This is my question. There are so many different programming languages out there. You have C, C Sharp, C++, Java, JavaScript, PHP, and the list goes on and on. And it kind of makes sense. When you look at the lists of the most popular programming languages, Python tends to be the right near the top. It's been around for a while, and it also pretty easy to use and to understand. When you code using Python, it tends to be a very concise programming language. It is also a good general purpose programming language. And what I mean by that is you can write all sorts of applications. Maybe you want to write a web app, an internal company tool, a game, or maybe you just want to conduct some scientific analysis. You can do all of that with Python. And all the things that you learned today related to Python, you can take these same concepts and you can apply it to other programming languages as well. And really, fundamentally, you just want to take some idea you have. You want to turn it into a series of steps that the computer can execute. And in a sense, it's kind of like a different language or spoken language. So in English, I say hello. In German, I will say hello. In French, I will try my best. I will say bonjour. And all of those communicate the same idea. I am just saying hello, but it's a slightly different way of saying it or speaking it. And that is the same with a programming language. They have different syntaxes. They also have different rules. But at the end of the day, you are simply trying to communicate something to the computer because you want the computer to do something for you. Now, of course, each programming language might have its strengths and weaknesses, but you are really accomplishing the same objective. Alright, so why don't we jump on the PC and let's get started with Python. First of all, get Python to your computer. And first of all, I want to check if I already have Python installed. So to do that on Windows 10, simply go down to your taskbar and within the search field type in command prompt. Once you type in command prompt, click on the best match. This opens up your command prompt. And to check for Python, simply type in Python and then type in dash dash and version. If you have Python installed, it will tell you the version of Python that you have. And here you see I just typed this in and it says Python was not found. So I need to go and install Python. If you already have it, you can skip the next step. If you don't have Python like me, stick around and I will show you how you can get Python. To get Python, head to the website python.org and that will drop you on the Python homepage. Right near the top, you will see a button for downloads. If you click on this, it will identify what operating system you are on and it will recommend the best option. However, if you are on a different operating system, you can also choose it down here. At present, my PC is running on Windows 10, so I will download Python 3.10.0. This is currently the most recent version. Click on download and here it's kicked off the download process. Once you finish downloading, click on the .exe file. This opens up the install prompt and right up here I could install. However, before we do that, there is an option right here at the bottom that says add Python to path. Let's check that box and then click on install now. This now runs through the installation process and it looks like the setup was successful. So I am going to click on close. Let's now go down below and just like we did before, you can type in command prompt and then launch the command prompt once again. We can type in python dash dash version, hit enter. And you should now see that Python is installed here. I have Python 3.10.0. Okay, now that we have verified that Python is successfully installed, let's close command prompt and once again let's go down to the taskbar. Except this time, let's type in Python and here you should see the best match for Python. Here I see Python 3.10.0. Let's click on this. This opens up the Python terminal and we can type in code directly here and Python will interpret it. So let's go with an example. What if we type in what is 1 plus 2 and I will put a question mark and let's hit enter and this doesn't work. I see something that says syntax error, invalid syntax. Now the syntax is the rules of a programming language. And when I typed in what is 1 plus 2, this doesn't align with what Python is expecting. I need to type in a valid expression that the Python programming language understands. So instead of typing in what is 1 plus 2, I could just type in 1 and I will type in plus 2 and then I will hit enter and there it gives me 3 back. So this was a valid expression in the Python programming language. Now what's neat is when I type something into Python like 1 plus 2, Python takes each line of code that I enter. So the 1 plus 2 it interprets it and then it evaluates it. So gave me 3. There are other programming languages where you have to compile it first and then you can execute it. But with Python it will interpret it as you are going. Now that we have typed in just a very basic expression and we have evaluated it. And why don't we try a built-in function called print? Here I could type in print. I'm going to open the parenthesis, insert double quotes and then I will type in hello world and I will close my quotes and close my parenthesis. Now this is one of the go-to examples anytime you are starting with a new programming language. It is just hello world, just testing it out. I will hit enter and here it says hello world. So it's sending back exactly what we sent into this function. Now as we go throughout this, our programs are going to get a little bit more complex, but this is just showing you the basics of how you can already start executing some code. To exit out of the Python terminal, we can click on the X symbol up here, or we can type in another function called exit. Open your parenthesis, close your parenthesis, then hit enter, and that will close out the terminal window. Now we executed some of our first code directly in the Python terminal, but You can also use a text editor to write code on Windows. There is a text editor called Notepad. Once again, go down to your taskbar and in the search field type in Notepad. I will click on this right here. This opens up Notepad. You probably never knew that you can write source code in Notepad. It's actually a pretty powerful app. So right here, just like we did in the previous example, I will type in print and then I will open my parenthesis, put in a quote, and then I will type in hello world once again. Then I will close my quotes and close my parenthesis. So here is my source code written in Notepad. Now, of course, I want to be able to run this. So I need to save it as an appropriate file type. I will go up to the file menu, go down to save as, and this opens up the save as prompt.
Now maybe I will just call this file. Let's call it hello world. And if I just leave it as that, it will save it as a .txt file, or basically just a standard text document. Now I want this to be a Python file, and it turns out that the extension for Python is .py. Just like the extension for a text files .txt, Python is .py. So here I will type in .py depending on the programming languages that you are using. Different programming languages have different extensions. For example, JavaScript is .js, and every language will have its own extension. Now that I have typed this in, I will save it to my desktop and then click on save. And here now I see the file on my desktop called hello world. You will also notice that it has the Python logo on it. Because we install Python, it currently identifies that this is a .py file, and so it sees that this is a Python file. Now let's test this out to see if we can run this source code that we wrote down below on the taskbar. Let's type in command prompt just like we did earlier, and let's open up the command prompt. And now I want to run this file over here in command prompt. To do that, let me type in Python. So this will let the computer know that this is a Python file that I want to run. I will put in a space and I will take my Python file and then I will simply drag and drop it over into command prompt. Now this is a really cool trick where you can get the location of the file simply by dragging and dropping it in. So here basically I am saying I want to execute this Python file. Next I will click on enter, and here we see that it prints hello world into my command prompt. This is exactly what I wanted it to do. So the Python went through and it interpreted the code in this file and then it printed it here. You now know some of the basics of both writing and running Python code. Congratulations! You just wrote your first bit of data source code and you also ran it. You are making some good progress. Now, so far we have just been writing our code in a text editor like a notepad, and then we have been running it, and that works perfectly fine. But it's not the most efficient way to write code, and just want to give a parallel example. Let's say that maybe you are writing a document for school. You could write your document in Notepad, of course. It does have some downsides. You don't have a spell check, or you don't have a grammar check. You can't do formatting. So although you can do it, it's going to require a lot more work. And that same concept also applies to programming. Sure, you could write your code in Notepad, or we can get what is called an IDE, and that stands for Integrated Development Environment. It will just make writing code a lot more efficient and also easy. And in a few moments, we will see why that is. You have all sorts of IDEs that you can choose from an Apple. You have Xcode. On Android, you have Android Studio. With Ruby, you have RubyMine. And there is also another one called Visual Studio Code, and that works very well with Python. It's a product made by Microsoft. But the great thing is Visual Studio Code is entirely free. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and let's get this ID. To get Visual Studio Code, go to the website code.visualstudio.com. And once you land on the home page, you can choose the operating system that you have. Here, when I click on the drop down, you can get it on Mac, Windows, or Linux. So it supports all of the different major operating systems. And now my computer is running on Windows, so I will click download for Windows and I will go with the stable build. Once the download completes, down in the bottom left hand corner, click on the exe file. This opens up the setup process. All agree. I will click to accept the agreement and then click on next. I will go with the default location. I will click on next. You will then get a screen that says select additional tasks. I recommend checking all of these different boxes. Now let's go down and click on next. On the last screen, let's click on install. This will now go through and install Visual Studio Code on your computer. Once you are all done installing, let's click on finish and launch Visual Studio Code.
This now drops us into Visual Studio Code. There are a few things we want to do before we can start writing code in Visual Studio Code. Over on the left hand side, there is an icon here for extensions. Let's click on that. This opens up extensions, and up here in the search field type in Python. We want to install the Python extension. When you type it, you should see Python at the very top. And when you click on this, you will see that it's Python by Microsoft. And right here, if you don't yet have it, you can install this extension. We are going to need this. So click on install and make sure you add it once you finish installing the extension. We also want to select Python that we just installed as the interpreter for Visual Studio Code. This is really easy to do on your keyboard. Press Ctrl Shift and P at the same time so that Ctrl Shift and P will open up this screen right here. And up here type in Python select interpreter. This allows us to select the interpreter that we want to use. Now if you remember in Notepad, when we wrote our code, it interprets that code. So we basically want to tell Visual Studio Code what interpreter we want to use. So I will select this option right here and now I can choose my interpreter, and here you will see Python 3.10.0. So this is what we installed just a moment ago. So here I will select this as my interpreter, and now we are all set to start writing code in Visual Studio Code. To get started, why don't we open up the hello world file that we created previously. Here I will go to the file menu and I will go to open file. This opens up my file picker, and here on my desktop I see my hello world file. Here you will also see that this type of file is now associated with Visual Studio Code. This is the Visual Studio Code logo. I will select this file and then click on open now. That I have opened the file, you should recognize this. This is exactly what we wrote into Notepad. Except this time we have it open in Visual Studio Code. Now you will start to notice some of the benefits of using an IDE or an integrated development environment. First off, I have line numbers. Now see here, if I add additional lines of code, here I get all the line numbers. Over on the left hand side in Notepad, we didn't get that also. When I write in this function called print, it highlights it in different colors. So I can identify what is the context or the text that it is printing and what is the function. So here I get different colors also. When I hover over print, it gives me some helpful suggestions on the type of content that I can enter within this function. So this will make it a lot easier. As we start writing out our code, now I can run this code directly in Visual Studio Code. I will simply go up here and I can now write down here. There is an option that says run Python file in terminal. When I select that, it will open up a terminal on the bottom of the screen. And here I can see that it executed or interpreted this file, and here it prints out hello world. So it gives me the output of this code right up here. Along with right clicking on the screen and running the Python file in the terminal, there I can also go up to the top right hand corner and I can click on this play icon. This will also run the Python file in the terminal. So when I click on this, here too it ran this file, and here too I see hello world. So this is just another way, probably a little bit easier to see the output of your code. Now that we know some of the basics, how to start writing code and how to run that code, I want to show you how we can start working with operators to work with numbers. And here I am going to type directly into the terminal down below. So I will go down here to the terminal, and just like we did earlier in the Python terminal, so here I will type in 1 plus 2 and I will hit enter. And here it interprets that code and it evaluates it to 3. So just like we saw earlier, one of the things is you will notice when I typed in 1 plus 2, I didn't include any spaces. And spaces or white space don't impact the calculation at all. So I could also type in 1 space and I will type in plus and then another space and hit 2 and then hit enter, and there too it evaluates it to 3. So using white space can actually make your code more readable. So you could type it in like this or just include some white space. It won't affect what the outcome is. With Python, I can use all of the standard operators right up above. Here, let's say 5 minus 2. I can also do subtraction, and there it evaluates that to 3 as well. I could do multiplication. So let's say 4 times 4. Now with multiplication, I enter in an asterisk. That's the multiplication symbol here. I will hit enter and it evaluates that to 16. I could also do division here. I will take 10 divided by 5, and here for division forward slash, and then I will hit enter and that evaluates to 2 now. With Python, let's say that you start using multiple operators. So maybe you are adding and then you are multiplying. Python follows the default order of operations. So let's say I enter in 2 plus 2 and then I want to multiply by 5. What do you think this will evaluate to? Is it 2 plus 2, which is 4, and then times 5, which is 20? Or is it 2 times 5, which is 10, and then you add 2 to that, which is 12? Well, here I hit enter, it evaluates to 12. Because it's following the default order of operations, multiplication comes before addition. If you have ever heard PEMDAS, PEMDAS, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Before that is how you know what the order of operations is. First, it will evaluate whatever is in parentheses. Then it will look at any exponents followed by multiplication and division in the order of left to right, and then it will look at addition and subtraction also in the order of left to right. Up above, I could also enter in my expression up here. So here I will get rid of hello world, and here I will say let's print out 2 plus 2. Here I will click on run, and here you will see that it executes this code, and here this also evaluates to 4. If I want to use an exponent, I will come up here. Let's remove the plus symbol, and here I will enter 2 asterisks. So this will be 2 to the power of 2. And here if I click on the play button, here that evaluates to 4. 2 times 2 is 4, but let's say I want to do a 2 to the third. Here I will evaluate and it comes out to 8. I also have access to the floor operator. So let's take an example here. Let's say I want to calculate 5 divided by 2, and here I will play and write down here. I see that is 2.5. So I have a remainder of 0.5. But let's say I don't want to know what the remainder is. I just want to know how many times it goes in without a remainder. This is also known as the floor. I could insert another forward slash and then I can run it in here. It tells me that it is 2. But let's say I just want to know what the remainder is. I can use the modulus operator. For that, I will get rid of the forward slashes and right here I will type in the percent symbol. Then I will hit go, and here it tells me that the remainder is 1. As I am entering in numbers up above and as I am working with numbers, let's say that I enter a very large number. So let's say I enter in maybe 1 million now. I could go through here and I could enter a comma and then I will type in the zeros. And if I hit go here, you will notice that it doesn't print what I expect it to do. That is because we don't want to use commas as we are entering numbers instead. When you enter a number, just enter it in as it is and then hit go. And here it prints exactly what we expect. So you don't want to use commas when you are entering in numbers, and here it prints exactly what we expect. So you don't want to use commas when you are entering in numbers. Now that we have entered in some numbers and we know a little bit about the basics of how you can work with numbers and operators, let's start working with some text or what is referred to as strings. Let's say that I want to print WhatsApp. Now earlier we printed out hello world, and it's the same concept here. I will insert in double quotes and then I will type in WhatsApp. So here is WhatsApp and I will click on this play icon, and down below you will see that the output is WhatsApp. Now I surrounded WhatsApp with double quotes. Now instead of using double quotes, I can also use single quotes up here. So if I enter in single quotes and then hit play, here too you will see that I get the same output. So I can choose whether I want to use double quotes or single quotes. So why would I want to use one versus the other? Well, here WhatsApp should actually have a single quote. So I will insert a single quote. There now one of the problems is when I enter a single quote, here it thinks that this is the end of the string. And so now if I try to run it, I get a syntax error down below. So instead I can use double quotes here, and I will use double quotes at the end, and I could use a single quote in the middle, and then here I will run it and it works properly now. Let's say you wanted to use double quotes within your text. Well, you could surround it with single quotes and that way the double quotes would show up. Now here too, just like we saw before, whitespace doesn't impact how the code runs. And another space here and I run this code here, you will see that I could get the exact same output. So once again, by using white space, that can help me your code more readable as you are going through. We now know some of the basics of working with numbers and also strings. But what if we want to make sure? You explain what's happening in your code. How do we do that? Well, we can use something called a comment. So let's say that I have this code here and I want to explain to someone what this does here. I will bring this code down to the second line and I can insert a comment by entering in the hash symbol or the number sign or the pound symbol. So enter that, and here I can say this prints some text I have now typed in my comment. And let's run this now. And here you will see that this doesn't affect at all. What appears down here, I simply get WhatsApp, so just like we got before. Now I could also take a comment and I could put it on a line with code. So here I will put it after my code. I will hit run and here too you see that it just gives me WhatsApp. And one of the neat things is, let's say I start writing a lot of code and it's starting to get fairly complex. I can comment out a line of code. I will put the hash symbol in front of my code and here you see it turns green. So this is the IDE's way of telling me that this is a comment. And here now if I hit run, you will see that I get no output. That is because I commented out this line of code. So here I can bring it back by removing it. And now here if I run it once again, it shows me WhatsApp. So comments are pretty valuable. As you are writing code, not only to let other people know what's happening in your code and what different blocks of code do, but you can also use it when you are troubleshooting to cancel out certain areas of your code until you are ready to test them again. Next, we are going to look at how you can use variables and the easiest way to explain a variable. I will explain you with an example. Suppose, assume that you have a red bucket in your hands. Let's pretend that red bucket is a variable and we can name the variable. Why don't we just call it red bucket? Just to keep things simple, now I can assign a value to this variable. So let's take for instance, let's say I want the red bucket to equal my name, Vinay. So here I have my name. I can take this value and I can assign it to this variable. So now if you say what is the red bucket, right here the red bucket is currently Vinay. So once again I have assigned that value to it and this is a string, or basically my name is referred to as a string. It's just a set of characters. Now I could assign other types of data to this variable. So maybe I say red bucket now to equal a number. I want it to equal number 8. Say red bucket, you are now equal to 8. So I am going to take my name. We are going to pull that out and here I will take the number 8 and we will put it in the red bucket. So now if you ask me what is the red bucket, it's currently the number 8. This is the general concept of a variable. The variable can hold different values. Let's jump in and see how we can use variables. To create variables, there are some rules that we need to follow, or this is the syntax that Python looks for a variable should only contain letters, numbers, or underscores. And also, we just need to make sure that we don't start with a number. We can't use any spaces in a variable name. We also can't use any known keywords to Python like break or try. And ideally, we want to make sure that a variable name is short and descriptive. Those work best. So, for example, with the red bucket, well, that was simply called the red bucket. So, it's pretty short and also descriptive. Also, variable names are case sensitive. So if I wrote red bucket with a capital R and another one with a lowercase r, Python would view those as separate variables. So case sensitivity matters. Okay, let's create our first variable and just continue the example. Let's say I want the variable to be called red bucket. So I will give it this name and now I need to assign a value to this variable just like I did with the bucket. So I will type in red bucket and I will type in the equal sign and I am going to assign it the value of Vinay, my name. And here I am using just a single equals sign. So what this does is it will assign this value to this variable. So now here I can hit enter and let me run this. and here nothing shows up yet because I have assigned this value to this variable. The next thing we could do is actually print this out. So here let me say print and let's type in red bucket. What's nice is I am using an IDE. It recognizes that I created a variable called red bucket and I can just click on it here, click on the play icon. Here it will print out Vinay. So it's printing out the value that is assigned to the red bucket. Now let's take another example. Let's say I add another line and let me copy this first line and I will paste it into the second line. And here I want to assign 10 to the red bucket. So here I start out by assigning Vinay and then I assign 10. What do you think we will print out? Okay, let's click on the play icon and here it prints out 10. And the reason why is first it assigns Vinay to red bucket and so that is the current value. But then on the next line of code it assigns 10 to the red bucket. So the 10 overrides Vinay and then when I print out the red bucket it's taking the last value that was assigned to it. So the way to think of this back to the bucket example is I put Vinay in the bucket, take Vinay out and then I put 10 in. So at the very end when you ask what is in the red bucket, well the number 10 is in the red bucket because that is the last item that I put in. One thing that is really neat about Python is when you are defining your variables, you don't have to assign your variable a type. So here, for example, for the red bucket, I assigned it my name, and that is also known as a string. And next, I assigned a number, which is an integer. But I don't have to go and say, well, the red bucket is a string or a red bucket is an integer. It will automatically know what data type that I am assigning to that variable. So down here in print, I can type and then I will open and close the parenthesis around this variable. Now let's run this and here it's telling me that it is an integer. So basically here 10 is assigned to red bucket. Let's get rid of this line right here. So now Vinay will be assigned to red bucket and when I run this here, you will see that a string data type is assigned to this variable. Now let's say that I want to get rid of a variable. So maybe I don't have a need for the red bucket anymore. Down here I can type in del and this will delete a variable and here I can type in red bucket. Again, I will select the suggestion. Let me get rid of the type in the print. So I just want to know what is red bucket. So if we run this, I will get an error because it says red bucket is not defined and that makes sense because here I created the variable. I assigned a value. Here I deleted the variable and here I tried to print the variable. But there is no variable anymore called red bucket because I deleted it. Right up above, next I want to show you an example of how you can request input and then you can take that input and assign it to a variable. So right here I simply typed in Vinay and I assigned it to this red bucket. But I want to allow input. So right up here, let's delete Vinay or delete your name that you entered in. And here we will type in the input function. Here I will open the parenthesis and let me type in double quotes. And maybe I will ask the question, what do you want to put in the bucket? I will enter a question mark and then an additional space. Now write down here I don't want to delete the variable. So I will get rid of this. So right now I am going to ask for input and then we will print out whatever the input is. So here let's click on the run icon and this will run it right down. Here it says what do you want to put in the bucket? And so maybe I want to put a shovel. So I will click down in the terminal, type in shovel and then hit enter. and here now it prints out shovel because that's now the value of the red bucket variable. Hello guys, we will take a temporary halt and we will put an end to beginner's guide in the next video, which is part 2 of Python for beginners. So far we have covered introduction part and why program, why Python, how to get a Python into our PC, running a code in Python terminal, writing code in text editor like Notepad, and how to get an IDE like Visual Studio Code, setup versus code, working with numbers and operators, working with text or strings, comments, variables. And in next video we will cover conditional logic, if, elif and else statements, functions, while and for loops, how to import libraries, and how to troubleshoot a code. And finally, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to our channel DDN, and please write your comments on the comment section below. Thank you for watching.